First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. This is Fox 12 Now. Thank you for joining us. We are live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. We appreciate you being a part of this show and downloading that Fox 12 Oregon app. And as you can see right now, I am joined by Pete Ferryman. Hello, Pete.
Hey,
always great to have you here on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
And always something really fascinating and informative that you've got that you're working on. And this in particular, I think, is really, really interesting.
It is significant. This is a story that I've been working on for months, but just a couple of days ago, it was one of those stand around to hurry up situations.
Yeah.
And I found out that the wheels were in motion. And so here's what's going on, basically. A ballot proposal, a ballot measure is in the works. It's been submitted in the state of Oregon to end what critics refer to as a catch and release criminal justice system. Okay, so this is where suspected criminals, oftentimes of felony crimes, are arrested, taken to jail, and immediately released without seeing a judge, and only to oftentimes go back and recommit those crimes. A lot of folks are upset about this, and they want to see a change, and pretty soon it could be, if it's approved by voters, if they get enough signatures, it could be in the hands of the voters. So let's take a look.
All right.
This is the Oregon Crimefighters Act, and we are the only news outlet to receive a copy from the petitioners. The goal of the measure is to put an end to what many describe as Oregon's catch and release system, where suspected criminals are immediately released before trial and then never show up. The sponsors are confident that Oregon voters will support it if given the chance.
It's just the latest example of a criminal justice system that many say has grown increasingly dysfunctional. An accused hit-and-run driver on Highway 26, later arrested for attempted murder, only to be released pre-trial by a judge over the strong objections of the prosecution and the victim's family. They said he'd never honor his promise to appear, and they were right. He's now at large, and Oregon lawmaker Kevin Mannix says cases like these have to stop.
Oh, I would say it's an abomination. The system of justice has been gutted by Senate Bill 48, and we're seeing the effects more and more every day.
Mannix is determined to overturn Senate Bill 48, a bail reform law passed as part of the criminal justice reform movement of 2020 after the murder of George Floyd. The goal? Eliminating cash bail so underprivileged defendants have the same ability to be released before trial as those who are wealthy. But much like Measure 110, which decriminalized drug use, Senate Bill 48 is now viewed by many as well-intended but failed legislation that went too far. It created new pretrial release guidelines for those arrested, ordering judges to create standing pretrial release orders, and allowing pretrial release officers to decide whether the majority of accused felons are immediately set free without those defendants ever seeing a judge.
It used to be officers knew when they arrested someone, there'd be some immediate consequence. That is, a judge is going to take a look at what this person is accused of doing, looking at the person's record. And that is not happening in many cases today.
In fact, the current guidelines call for the immediate release without bail or arraignment of those arrested for hundreds of crimes, including 150 felonies like auto theft, identity theft, second-degree arson, and failing to register as a sex offender. In Multnomah County, the DA's office says a rough count conducted last year found that about half of those accused felons released failed to appear for trial. And they say in the vast majority of felony cases, no one in Multnomah County is tasked with finding those fugitives.
Now we're going to provide our citizens with the opportunity to respond and say, we're not going to take this anymore.
He's now introducing a ballot measure called the Oregon Crimefighters Act. The measure would revoke the reforms enacted by Senate Bill 48 by bypassing the legislature and going straight to the voters. He says he fully expects the measure to become law.
I believe if we get this in front of the voters, and we're starting the petition process now, that we will get resounding support.
And it's a safe bet that he'll have the support of crime victims like the motorcyclist struck on Highway 26.
From here, the ballot measure is expected to go to the state attorney general's office for an official ballot title to be certified. And from there, it will likely go to the Oregon Supreme Court for review. Then the sponsors will need to gather 150,000 signatures by July of next year to get the measure on the ballot. Of course, there is much more to this ballot measure than simply requiring criminal defendants to see a judge and changing those pretrial guidelines. And this is just one side of a very divisive issue. We've reached out to the ACLU and others who supported Senate Bill 48 and the bail reform movement. Once they've had a chance to look at the Oregon Crime-Fighting Act, we'll share their views with you right here on Fox 12. In studio, Pete Ferryman, Fox 12 Oregon.
Wow, so that is pretty shocking to realize how many different crimes that are on there, you know, that somebody could be arrested for and just have that catch and release system in there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a list of 100. I printed it out on the printer over there, and it's a booklet, right?
Yeah.
And most alarmingly for the proponents of this proposed ballot measure, those 150 felonies, and they include, I listed some of them: motor vehicle theft, mail theft, identity theft, second-degree burglary, second-degree arson, rioting, failure to register as a sex offender, first-degree theft. All of those. In many cases, if you're arrested for that, you don't even see a judge. You go to what's known as a release officer that a judge can appoint in a court. Okay, a lot of people don't know that this is happening.
Yeah.
So these release officers, basically, the person comes in to be booked, and they look at the list and say, "Oh, motor vehicle theft, immediate release."
You're out of here.
Based on the guidelines that were set forth with Senate Bill 48. A measure that a lot of people are not familiar with.
Yeah.
But to me, it's really similar to Measure 110.
Okay.
In that, Measure 110, a lot of people voted for it, had the best of intentions, but I think it's widely seen now as a failed piece of legislation.
Yeah.
Good intentions, but failed legislation.
Implementation.
Yeah, and this, it kind of reminds me of that.
Okay.
It remains to be seen. What's really important to realize, though, is that, we heard from Kevin Mannix there, who is a Republican lawmaker. Mm-hmm. There are many out there who are watching this right now saying that, hey, we've got opposing views to what he's trying to do. When we did this story last night, the opposition didn't have a chance to look at the proposed ballot measure, so it was difficult to get their response to something they haven't even seen yet. But we're working on that. As I mentioned there, we did reach out to the ACLU. So, and once we hear from them, we'll give them just as much time to explain their point of view.
So, to hear that other side of what it is, they're thinking about this. But I mean, certainly something that I think, for no matter what side you're on with that issue, something that a lot of people have concern with. Whatever that concern may be, this is something that affects a lot of people.
I've been thinking a lot about this over the last couple of years, and we've run stories on the potential doom loop in Portland, right? Businesses that are leaving. And we had Higgins Restaurant just last week announcing the U.S. Bank Big Pink office tower selling for 15% of what it would have in 2015, right?
Yeah.
I could go on, right? And as a result of that, the tax base being gutted in Portland, and that's the very money that we need to offer services to people in oppressed communities and people who need our help, right? So it's interesting in that way that, some critics would say that this that Senate Bill 48 was biting the very hand that was trying to help the people it was intended to help, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
But, it remains to be seen.
Yeah.
I do want to say one thing, though, and I didn't have a chance. There's so much. First of all, the Oregon Crime-Fighting Act, there's a lot to it that, I didn't have a chance to, in a 3-minute piece, explain what it does. So, what it would do is reform those bail reform measures that came with Senate Bill 48, right? That's number one. But the part that's going to be really difficult to swallow is that the counties in this situation would be hard-pressed to come up with the funding to house more people in jail if this happens, if you're holding people, right? So this measure would force the state to reimburse the counties for that cost. That's a tough pill to swallow.
That is.
Okay, so, but here's the thing, and I asked Kevin Mannix about this. he has a lot of experience with ballot measures. I've been around long enough. When I started off in Eugene in 1993, he had worked on ballot measure 11, right? And that has had a dramatic impact on law enforcement and the criminal justice system. A lot of people are opposed to it, right? But he knows how to get ballot measures on the ballot and get them voted into law. He has a history of doing that. So he's very confident that he thinks this is going to pass. And if his history in doing this is any indication, it very well may become law a year and a half from now.
Yeah,
So,
as you mentioned there at the end of that piece that we just watched. Yeah, so but a year and a half from now is when that would. And they have till, I think you said next July.
Yeah, so we're talking about this would be on the ballot in November of 2026, right?
Okay.
But again, he has his team, and he's a co-petitioner. There are others in his office who are petitioners on this proposed ballot measure. But this is why he's getting such a head start, right? Because he knows the process. This has got to go. It's probably going to go to the Supreme Court. There's going to be public hearings, and then they'll have a year, basically until July, to get those 150,000 signatures, right? And if they're successful and those signatures hold up, then it would be on the ballot in November of 2026. And if it is, it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be something that everyone's going to be talking about, much like we did Measure 110 just a few years ago.
Yeah.
So,
well, a lot to know about this. I mean, it's good to just even get this information out here right now for anybody who didn't know.
Yeah.
What was already on the books, let alone what could be coming on the books.
You heard it here first. We were the first news outlet to have a copy of the proposed legislation, the Oregon Crime-Fighting Act. And Senate Bill 48, remember that. That's something that a lot of people just weren't aware of.
Yeah.
But again, it reminds me a lot of Measure 110, the drug decriminalization law. It could end up being framed in the same way going forward with the voters. We'll see.
Yeah, and I know, as you mentioned, you're reaching out to the other side, so we'll find out.
Absolutely, and there is other sides. There is legitimate argument about people in oppressed communities not having the cash for bail, which is unfair if you consider somebody who does have means can make bail, and why should somebody be treated differently, right?
Yeah.
It just be based upon the size of their wallet,
right?
And that's a legitimate argument. What the critics would argue is, yes, that may be the case, but this, much like was Measure 110, they say has just gone too far, and we're seeing the results of it. And when I talk about the doom loop thing, a lot of people point to this as the crux of it. If police take people to jail and they instantly get released, and we've seen cases where someone's arrested 9 times.
Yeah,
they just keep
committing the same crime.
Right. So if that's the case, then businesses are not going to want to do business in a city that has that problem. It's just it's a basic logic step, right? And I have friends who are, commercial loan brokers who represent the big industrial investors in the Midwest, and they're still saying that if they see a loan proposal for a business in Portland with a Portland zip code, they're not going to do it because they want this fixed. So, you can say
far-reaching things.
I mean, those are just a few of the big insurers. We're talking like, major life insurers, right? Who make the loans with their money. That may not be the case with every loan broker, but it is a serious problem, and it kind of comes down to first things first. And a lot of people would argue that this is at the crux of it. So,
well, Pete, thank you for joining us. To give some more information on this, and as you mentioned, just explaining it to people who may not know Senate Bill 48. And quite honestly, I was one of those people.
Well, listen,
this educates me.
It's very complex. We had to boil it down, but take a look at it for yourself, and we've got the documents on our webpage.
Yep.
And you can look at it there and on our app.
Yep. So there we go. Fox 12 Oregon app, KPTV.com. So go there and you can take another look at this. You can watch more of Pete's coverage of this too as that comes in, and also right here. So thanks for joining us for this. This is Fox 12 now. If it's your first time watching, we get to do a little bit of longer form, have a bit of a deeper dive when we get somebody like Pete over here to tell us some of that information, a little bit more than you can get sometimes in that 3-minute piece. And And yeah, so
There's a lot more to come.
a lot more to come.
yeah.
So thank you very much, Pete. Thanks to everybody who's joining us. We have more coming up at 3 o'clock here, so in about 15 minutes or so. We're going to be joined by Mark Nelson to talk about this heat that is going on. And
Make it stop.
Make it stop, yeah. We'll find out if Mark has that power. And we're also going to ask him a little bit about some of the weather there for Central Oregon, where that fire is going on, and what maybe we can expect with that, too. So that's coming up at 3 o'clock. So whatever platform you're on, join me right back here. Thanks again, Pete. Thanks for watching. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.